This time we're going to use a much more fleshed out premise with all the chapters of the story broken out in more detail to give the AI a more thorough understanding of the context of what we want to see. However, in this test, we're not going to have the chapter pacing feature turned on. So even though this chapter content is there, we're not going to add any additional instructions to the prompts to the AI telling it how to use that chapter information. As you'll see in the story as it evolves over the next hour and a half, it mixes up the chapters or speeds through them too quickly and doesn't really follow them. It includes the overall content from the chapters and descriptions, but it doesn't follow them. We'll see in the next video the same story with chapter pacing feature turned on.
Rayskin's earliest memories are of sunlight slanting through the high windows of his family's manor, the scent of aged parchment and rosewater blending in the corridors. His father, Lord Darien, ruled with a gentle but distant hand, and his mother's laughter echoed rarely, usually behind closed doors. As the only son, Rayskin's days were shaped by tutors and etiquette, but it was the allure of the arcane that truly captured his heart. Books on spellcraft, tales of archmages, and whispered rumors of Blackstaff Academy filled his youthful dreams. Now, his acceptance letter, sealed with the sigil of Waterdeep's greatest magical institution, rests in his trembling hands. The parchment bears his name in curling, enchanted script, and the words feel heavy with promise. The carriage waiting outside is already laden with trunks and a staff gifted by his grandmother. At the threshold, his father stands with a rare smile, while his mother dabs her eyes with a silk kerchief. As Rayskin steps into the morning air, the city of Waterdeep lies ahead, sprawling, alive, and thrumming with magical potential. The Academy's towers rise above the city fog, their spires catching the sun. For a moment, the world seems limitless. Every possibility open before him. He turns for a final look at his family, their faces a study in pride and worry. The driver's voice breaks the silency. "Ready, young master." Rayskin nods, heart pounding. The carriage lurches forward, and his journey into the unknown begins. Wave goodbye to your parents and try to memorize every detail of home as you leave. As the carriage rolls away from the manor, Raiskin leans out the window for one last glance. He etches the scene into memory, the aged stone walls dappled with ivy, the twin hawk statues guarding the gate, his mother's hand raised in farewell, and his father's proud but stoic face. The slow rhythm of the horses' hooves seems to echo the ache in his chest, a mixture of anticipation and longing. Fields and orchards give way to bustling roads, dotted with travelers and merchants bound for Waterdeep. Raiskin watches as the land of his childhood slips by, each familiar copse and hill losing its clarity as the city's sprawl draws nearer. He recalls childhood games played in the orchard, the taste of honeyed cakes at festival time, and nights spent tracing secret runes by candlelight. As the carriage crests a final hill, Waterdeep's grandeur spreads below, a labyrinth of rooftops, towers, and pennants fluttering in the breeze. The distant tolling of city bells reaches him, and for the first time a thrill of excitement overcomes his melancholy. The magical heart of the realms is just ahead, filled with promise and peril both. The driver glances back, perhaps sensing the weight of the moment. First time in the city, young master, he asks with a knowing smile. Raiskin must decide how to grate the unknown that lies ahead. Raiskin offers a shy smile and admits, "It is my first time in Waterdeep. Do you have any advice for someone new to the city?" The driver, whose name he soon learns is Hob, chuckles warmly. Plenty. Keep your purse close, your wits closer, and never trust a rat in a waistcoat. But more than that, keep your eyes open. This city is full of wonders, and not all are what they seem. Hobbes' words are accompanied by a series of tales of illusionists who make coins dance in the market square, of a street called Sable Alley where fortunes are lost and found, and of Blackstaff Academy whose students are known for both brilliance and trouble. The academy sits high above the city, Hobbes says, gesturing toward the distant towers, but its shadows fall everywhere. Keep your head up, young master, and don't let the older students play tricks on you. The carriage rolls through the city gates, and the sights and sounds of Waterdeep envelop Raiskin. Crowds press in on either side, vendors hawk magical trinkets, and the air thrums with possibility. Somewhere in the claimer, a silver-robed mage glances his way, eyes lingering a moment too long before vanishing into the throng. Raiskin feels both excitement and apprehension clutch at his heart. The carriage turns onto a broad avenue lined with banners bearing the sigil of Blackstaff Academy. Hob pulls the reins and nods toward the academy's grand arched entrance. Here we are, lad. Time to make your mark. Raiskin must decide how to take his first step in Waterdeep. Raiskin presses a coin into Hobb's calloused palm and thanks him earnestly for the guidance. Hobb grins, eyes twinkling beneath his weathered brow. May fortune and the black staff watch over you, lad. Don't forget, trust your instincts. With that, he tips his hat and urges the horses onward, vanishing into the city's morning bustle. Shouldering his satchel and gripping his grandmother's staff, Raiskin steps into the shadow of the academy gates. The stone archway is etched with runes that shimmer faintly in the sunlight. Students in robes of every color hurry past, some laughing, others poring over books or carrying arcane tools. The air is alive with the scent of parchment, ink, and ozone. He draws a deep breath and walks forward, confidence buoyed by Hobb's words and his own sense of destiny. The grandeur of the Academy's marble columns and manicured gardens is daunting, but Raiskin finds a steady rhythm in his stride. As he approaches the registration table, a cluster of instructors clad in midnight blue, one of them, a stern woman with silver, streaked hair, fixes him with a keen gaze. "Name and letter, please," she says crisply. Raiskin must now decide how to introduce himself to the Academy staff for the very first time. Raiskin stands tall and presents his letter with both hands, his voice steady and clear. Raiskin of House Eltarian, reporting as summoned by the Blackstaff. The silver-streaked instructor accepts the letter, her expression unreadable as her eyes flick over the arcane sigil and the elegant script. She glances up at his name, her gaze lingering for a moment, as if weighing the legacy behind it. "Welcome, Raiskin of House Eltharion," she finally says, her tone formal but not unkind. "The Academy expects much from its students, especially those of noble lineage. You will find your dormitory assignment and schedule within." She hands him a slim packet bearing his name, sealed with blue wax. "Orientation begins in the High Hall. Do not be late." Around them, the flow of new students continues, some uncertain, others brimming with arrogance. As Raiskin steps away, he hears a pair of older students whispering, "That's an Eltharion. Never thought I'd see one here." The words are tinged with curiosity, perhaps envy. He feels the weight of expectation settle on his shoulders, even as excitement stirs anew. Ahead, the path forks, so one branch leads toward the High Hall, where orientation is gathering. The other follows a shaded walkway lined with statues of legendary mages, promising a moment of quiet before the bustle begins. Gathering his courage, Rayskin approaches the pair of older students just as they are about to turn down a side corridor. He offers a polite nod and introduces himself. Rayskin of House Eltharion. I heard my name. Thought I'd say hello. The taller of the two, a dark-haired young man with an easy grin, glances at his companion, then extends a hand. Brave to approach upper years on your first day. I'm Tamsin. This is Vera. Vera, a sharp-eyed woman with a badge marking her as a mentor, gives Rayskin an appraising look. You'll find the Academy expects everyone to prove themselves, Eltharion or not. But it's rare to see your house here. Most nobles prefer private tutors or other schools. Why Blackstaff? Rayskin senses this is both a test and an invitation. Around them, the flow of students continues, but these two command a subtle respect from those who pass. A curiosity, perhaps, or the promise of true mastery, he says, goading their reaction. Tamsin laughs. You'll fit in well if you keep your wits. Don't let the high hall intimidate you. Orientation's a circus. Vera leans in, lowering her voice. If you need help navigating the first weeks, find me in the East Library Tower. But don't be late to orientation. The instructors notice everything. Rayskin must now decide how to proceed as the bell for orientation tolls in the distance. Rayskin thanks Tamsin and Vera with a grateful nod, then weaves through the throng of students toward the high hall. The marble steps rise before him, gleaming in the morning sun, and the ornate doors stand open to reveal a cavernous chamber. Inside, hundreds of new students gather in clusters, their voices echoing off the vaulted ceiling. Banners depicting the Academy's crest flutter overhead, and instructors in midnight blue robes move purposefully among the crowd. He finds an empty spot near the center as a hush falls over the hall. The headmaster, a tall figure with a black staff topped by a sapphire crystal, steps onto a dais. His presence commands immediate attention. Welcome to Blackstaff Academy, he intones, his voice carrying effortlessly. Here, you will be tested, not only in knowledge but in character. Magic is power, and power must be earned. The headmaster's gaze lingers on Raskin for a heartbeat before scanning the assembly. There will be challenges. There will be triumphs. But above all, there will be choices. Around Rayskin, some students shift nervously, while others stand tall, eager for the trials ahead. He feels both the enormity of the moment and a spark of excitement. He has truly arrived at the heart of magical learning. As the speech ends, instructors begin calling names for dormitory assignments and mentor groups. Rayskin's name is soon called, and he must decide his first interaction as an official student. Join his group immediately, linger to observe his fellow students, or seek out Vera for a quick word before being swept into academy life. Weaving through the shifting throng, Rayskin spots Vera near the edge of the hall, her sharp eyes already on him, as if she anticipated his approach. Quickly, she murmurs, gesturing for him to step aside into a quieter alcove beneath a tapestry depicting a famous magical duel. You'll want to keep your head down during the first weeks. The Academy tests more than magical skill. Some lessons are meant to unsettle. You may find the dormitories challenging. Choose your friends wisely. Rayskin nods, grateful for the advice. Vera's tone grows more confidential. If you run into trouble or if anything feels off, the East Library Tower is always open to you. Not all shadows here are cast by sunlight. Her words carry a subtle warning, and for a brief moment, it seems her gaze flickers to a group of instructors clustered near the dais. The announcement for Rayskin's mentor group rings out again, sharper this time. Vira gives him an encouraging nod. Go. Don't draw attention. We'll talk more soon. Rayskin steps away, mind buzzing with her cryptic warning and the sudden awareness that the Academy may hold dangers beyond academic rivalry. As he rejoins the mass of students, he must decide whether to approach his new mentor group with open curiosity, maintain a reserved distance to observe, or discreetly watch for the instructors Vera seemed wary of. Rayskin strides toward his mentor group with a genuine smile, determined to make a memorable first impression. The cluster of students, all varying in age and background, look up as he arrives. A tall woman in deep blue robes, her eyes kind but assessing, steps forward. Welcome, all. I am Instructor Maritha, your mentor for the year. Introduce yourselves, your names, origins, and one magical subject you're most eager to master. The introductions begin, laughter and nerves mingling as each student shares their hopes. When Rayskin speaks, Rayskin of House Eltharion, from the North Ward. I wish to understand the nature of magical boundaries. A few heads turn, and Maritha nods approvingly. Curiosity is the lifeblood of magic. You'll need it here. As the group falls into casual conversation, Rayskin quickly notices subtle dynamics: a pair of students already vying for Maritha's attention, another quietly sketching runes in a notebook, and one, a sullen boy with striking silver eyes, who barely meets anyone's gaze. The mentor points them toward their dormitory, but suggests they first explore the grounds together to build camaraderie. With the day still young, Rayskin must decide to join his peers in exploring the Academy's gardens and towers, attempt to befriend the withdrawn silver-eyed student, or stay by Maritha's side to learn more about her expectations. Rayskin takes a quiet step away from the main group and approaches the silver-eyed student, who stands apart beneath the shade of a spreading willow. "Hello," Rayskin offers, voice gentle. "I'm Rayskin. This is all a bit overwhelming, isn't it?" The boy glances sideways, his gaze wary but not hostile. After a pause, he replies, "Eldrin, most people don't notice me, or try not to. You're not like them." There's a faint tremor in his words, as if he's unused to speaking his mind. "I've come here to study wards and protections. My family thinks I'm not strong enough for Blackstaff." Rayskin senses the same undercurrent of anxiety he's felt all day, but also a flicker of kinship. "We all have something to prove," he says. "If you ever want to practice together, let me know." For the first time, Eldrin meets Rayskin's eyes fully. "Maybe. You rep different. I'll remember." Maritha calls for the group to move on, inviting everyone to the gardens. Rayskin must decide whether to continue building trust with Eldrin, rejoin the group for the tour, or ask Maritha about the Academy's protections and rumors of hidden dangers. Rayskin offers Eldrin a reassuring smile, then slips back into the group as they begin their tour of the Academy grounds. The air is fresh with the scent of dew and wild flowers, and the buildings glimmer with protective runes that pulse gently in the sunlight. Maritha leads them past the central fountain, a statue of the legendary Blackstaff himself, staff raised to the sky, and points out various halls: the Conjurer's Spire, the Hall of Elements, and the arcane, encrypted doors of the library towers. Students chatter as they walk, sharing rumors and hopes. Rayskin listens closely, catching snippets about forbidden wings, dueling clubs, and a ghost that sometimes haunts the western cloister. As they pass beneath a row of ancient oaks, a sudden chill breeze stirs the leaves, and a flock of blackbirds takes flight, their cries echoing off the stone. Maritha pauses by a small, vine-tangled archway leading to the dormitory wing. "This is where you'll reside. Remember, your actions reflect not just on yourselves, but on your house and your mentor. The Academy rewards curiosity, but also expects discretion." With the tour ending, Maritha gives them a choicing explore the dormitory and settle in, visit the library to familiarize themselves with Academy resources, or join her in the gardens for a private word of welcome. Rayskin senses an opportunity, but also the faint tension that seems to linger beneath the Academy's polished surface. Rayskin slips away from the group and heads toward the library towers, drawn by curiosity and the promise of discovery. The main library is a soaring chamber, its walls lined with shelves that stretch impossibly high, ladders gliding silently from row to row on tracks of polished brass. Light streams through stained glass windows, casting shifting patterns across students hunched over tomes, scrolls, and curious glowing artifacts. A librarian with emerald spectacles greets him quietly. Welcome, first year. The catalog is enchanted for ease of search, but some texts require approval from a mentor or instructor. If you seek general knowledge, the first 3 galleries will suffice. For the restricted archives, speak with a senior librarian. Rayskin browses the stacks, his fingers trailing over bindings embossed with runes. He finds books on magical theory, the history of Blackstaff, and, behind a velvet rope, a section labeled wards, protections, and hidden threats. As he lingers, he notices another student, a girl with copper hair and a half-healed burn on her hand, watching him from across the aisle. She seems to be searching for something, her brow furrowed in concentration. With the afternoon light fading, Rayskin can choose to approach the copper-haired student, attempt to access the restricted section, seek out the librarian for guidance, or return to his dormitory before curfew. Rayskin leaves the library behind, the memory of the copper-haired student and the velvet rope secrets lingering in his mind. The corridors to the dormitory are quiet, lit only by enchanted lanterns that flicker with a calming blue glow. When he arrives, he finds his assigned room nestled at the end of a narrow hall, its oak door carved with protective runes. Inside, the chamber is simple but comfortable: 2 beds, a pair of desks, and a window looking out over the moonlit Academy gardens. His trunk and staff rest at the foot of the bed, and a letter sits atop his pillow, an official welcome and a reminder of tomorrow's first lessons. The other bed is already occupied by a neat stack of books, and to Rayskin's surprise, a familiar satchel marked with Eldrin's initials. Unpacking his things, Rayskin reflects on the day, the nervous excitement, Vera's warning, Eldrin's tentative trust, and the mysteries hinted at in the library. A faint breeze carries the scent of wildflowers through the open window, but beneath it he senses the Academy's quiet watchfulness, an undercurrent of magic and secrets waiting to surface. As night falls, Rayskin considers how to spend his final waking moments: write a letter home, introduce himself to Eldrin as a roommate, explore the dormitory for other students, or sit by the window to contemplate the future. Raiskin settles onto the broad windowsill, pulling his knees to his chest as he gazes out over the moonlit gardens. The academy is transformed by night too. Shadows stretch long across the grounds, and the white marble statues seem to glow with a subtle, inner light. In the distance, the towers of Blackstaff rise, like pale sentinels against the starlit sky, their runes faintly pulsing in time with his own heartbeat. From this vantage, he sees other students moving through the gardens in pairs or small groups, laughter and whispers carrying on the cool air. A few windows are lit elsewhere in the dormitory, the silhouettes of his peers bent over books or lost in private rituals. Raiskin feels both a part of something vast and wondrous, and yet a Chingli alone, an outsider even among the gifted. A sudden movement catches his eye for a fleeting moment. A shadow detaches itself from a hedge below, gliding silently across the grass before disappearing behind the alchemy hall. Raiskin blinks, uncertain if it was a person, a summoned familiar, or a trick of the moonlight. The academy's secrets seem closer than ever, just out of reach. Sleep beckons, but so does curiosity. Raiskin must decide whether to investigate the mysterious shadow, confide in Eldran about what he saw, write down his thoughts in a journal, or simply let sleep claim him and face the mysteries anew in the morning. Driven by curiosity, Raiskin slips quietly from his room and pads down the dim corridor, careful not to disturb Eldrin. The hallway is silent except for the soft hum of magical wards. He descends the stairs, heart thumping, and slips out a side door into the cool night air. The scent of damp earth and wildflowers stronger here than above. The gardens are bathed in silver moonlight, casting long, eerie shadows between the hedges and marble statues. Raiskin moves cautiously, keeping to the darker paths. As he nears the alchemy hall, he hears a faint rustle, then glimpses the shadow again, more distinct this time. A hooded figure crouched by the base of a statue, tracing runes into the stone with a slender wand. A faint purplish glow pulses from the runes, and the air around the figure crackles with suppressed magic. Suddenly, the figure glances up, as if sensing Raiskin's presence. For a heartbeat, their eyes catch, a glint of deep violet in the moonlight. The figure tenses, then sweeps their wand in a sharp arc. The runes flare, and the statue's shadow seems to stretch and twist, reaching toward Raiskin like living smoke. Raiskin must decide, confront the figure and demand an explanation, attempt to flee back toward the dormitory, try to dispel the magic with a spell of his own, or hide behind a hedge and observe what happens next. Raiskin ducks behind a thick hedge, holding his breath as the animated shadow slides across the grass, searching. The hooded figure murmurs a word and flicks their wand again. The shadow retreats, coiling protectively around the statue's base. For a tense moment, all is still. Then the figure resumes tracing runes, seemingly more hurried now, their hands trembling slightly in the moonlight. He watches as the pulsing violet magic intensifies. The runes begin to shift, snaking around the statue's plinth and creeping up its marble legs. The air feels charged, as if a storm is about to break. Just as the spellwork reaches its peak, a faint bell tolls in the distance, a curfew warning. The figure curses softly, stops their work, and hastily wipes away some of the runes, but the glow lingers, stubborn and wild. Before slipping away into the shadows, the hooded figure glances back at the statue, leaving their spell unfinished. Raiskin glimpses a gloved hand with a strange sigil, spiral of thorns, before the figure vanishes behind the alchemy hall. The garden is now eerily quiet, the statue's shadow still flickering with residual magic. Raiskin can choose to investigate the altered statue up close, follow the hooded figure, rush back to the dormitory, or seek out an instructor to report what he's seen. With a last, wary glance at the flickering magic, Raiskin slips from the garden, keeping low and moving quickly across the dew-soaked grass. The curfew bell tolls again, more insistent now, urging him to hurry. He retraces his steps through the silent halls, heart to be a-straining as he passes beneath the watchful gaze of enchanted lanterns. Back in the dormitory, Raiskin eases the door shut, grateful to find Eldrin asleep amid a nest of books. He moves quietly to his bed, a mind buzzing with questions. The spiral of thorns, the unfinished spellwork, the hooded figure's violet eyes. The academy, he realizes, is far more dangerous and mysterious than even Vera hinted. As Raiskin lies beneath his quilt, the moonlight casting shifting patterns on the ceiling, he wonders if he should keep the night's events to himself, share them with his mentor or Vera, or confide in Eldrin. Sleep comes slowly, his dreams swirling with shadows and runes. When morning arrives, Raiskin must decide whether to investigate the statue by daylight, approach Vera or Maritha about the incident, discuss it with Eldrin, or try to put it out of his mind and focus on his studies. Raiskin rises before dawn, slipping out while the dormitory is still quiet and the halls are tinged with the soft blue of early morning spells. The gardens are different by daylight. Dew sparkles on the grass, the marble statues look benign, and the air feels lighter. Yet, as he approaches the statue where the hooded figure worked, a faint residue of violet still clings to the stone, and a subtle chill lingers in the shadow it casts. He examines the base, tracing his fingers over the grooves where runes were carved and hastily wiped away. The faintest outline of a spiral of thorns remains, barely visible unless one knows to look. The statue's shadow seems to pool unnaturally, refusing to shrink even as the sun climbs higher. No other students are nearby, only birds and the distant ring of a bell from the kitchens. A soft rustle behind him makes Raiskin turn. The copper-haired student from the library stands at the edge of the path, eyes flicking from him to the statue and back. She hesitates, then whispers, "You saw it too, didn't you? The spell worked last night." There's urgency in her voice, and something close to fear. Raiskin must decide whether to share what he knows with her, downplay his involvement, ask what she's searching for, or suggest they both report the incident to a mentor together. Raiskin glances at the copper-haired student, careful to keep his voice steady. "I only saw something odd," he says, gesturing at the statue's base. "Some strange magic left over. Nothing more. I wasn't close enough to see who or what caused it." He hopes the half-truth will keep her from pressing further, but she steps closer, eyes narrowing with concern. "It's not safe to ignore this," she whispers, her tone tight. "That mark," she points to the faint spiral of thorns, "is a sign of the thorn circle. They're not supposed to be here, not after what happened last year." For a moment her hand trembles, and she pulls her robe tighter around her burn-scarred fingers. She looks over her shoulder, as if expecting to be overheard. "My name's Sarah. I've been trying to track them. If you see anything else, anything, promise you'll find me. We can't trust just anyone." Sarah's words leave a chill in the morning air. A stranger, and Raiskin realizes he's been drawn into something deeper than he intended. Class bells begin to ring, signaling the start of the day. Sarah slips away into the crowd, leaving Raiskin with a choice: seek out Sarah later to learn more, a confide in Vera or Maritha about the Thorn Circle, focus on his lessons and try to keep out of the intrigue, or quietly observe his peers for signs of secret allegiances. Rayskin steels himself to ignore the lingering mysteries and throws his mind into his first day of lessons. The classroom is a domed chamber, a sunlight filtering through colored glass and illuminating chalk diagrams of ley lines and elemental circles. Instructor Marathon's voice is calm but commanding as she leads the students through their first exercises. Simple cantrips, the theory of arcane focus, and the history of Waterdeep's magical wards. Despite his efforts, Rayskin's thoughts keep drifting to the statue, the violet runes, and Sarah's urgent warning. Each time he glances around, he sees Sarah sitting several rows away, her gaze fixed and distracted. Eldrin at his side fidgets nervously, occasionally jotting down notes in an unusually cramped script. As the lesson ends, Maritha assigns them a research project on magical symbols of protection and their misuse, a topic that sends a ripple of unease through Rayskin. He wonders if the assignment is a coincidence or a subtle warning, and whether anyone in the room knows more than they're letting on. With the rest of the day open for library research or private study, Rayskin must decide whether to dive into the project, seek out Sarah in the stacks to talk privately, look for Vera in the East Library Tower, or quietly observe his classmates for clues about the secret society's reach. Rayskin settles into the library, determined to lose himself in the world of magical symbols and ancient texts. The scent of old parchment, ink, and wax fills the high vaulted chamber. He pores over tomes on warding sigils, defensive glyphs, and the history of magical societies within Waterdeep. Some references, though obscure, mention the Thorn Circle, a radical splinter group that once sought to harness shadow magic, abandoned decades ago after a disastrous ritual nearly breached the city's wards. He meticulously copies diagrams and notes the subtle differences between lawful protection runes and those twisted for darker purposes. One passage, append in a trembling hand, warns, "Beware the spiral of thorns. Where it takes root, shadow follows." Another recounts a failed attempt to expel the circle, with several students vanishing under suspicious circumstances. As Rayskin reads, he senses movement nearby. Sarah drifts past, her arms laden with books, but she gives him only a brief, meaningful glance before vanishing into the stacks. Eldrin appears at his table, awkwardly clearing his throat. Do you think the project's meant as a test? Eldrin asks, his tone low. Maritha seemed different today, like she was watching for something. A sense of unease lingers. Raiskin must decide whether to confide in Eldrin about his discoveries, seek out Maritha to probe her knowledge of the Thorn Circle, follow Sarah for a private conversation, or dig deeper into forbidden texts despite the risks. Raiskin quietly gathers his notes and slips away from his table, trailing Sarah through the labyrinthine stacks. She moves quickly, weaving between shelves until she finds a secluded alcove beneath a high, arched window. When he catches up, she looks both relieved and guarded, her fingers tracing the worn leather of an old tome she carries. You actually followed, Syrah whispers, glancing around to be certain they're alone. I've been watching the circle for weeks. Last year, someone tried to open a breach to the Shadowfell from inside the academy. They were stopped, barely, but not before several students. Friends were hurt. The faculty covered it up. Now the spiral's back. She hands Raiskin a slip of parchment, an old academy map marked with cryptic symbols and notes. I think they're using the old alchemy tunnels. I can't do this alone. If we can find proof, or catch them in the act, maybe the Blackstaff himself will listen. But it's dangerous. The circle has eyes everywhere. As Sarah's words sink in, Raiskin must decide whether commit to helping her investigate, urge caution and propose gathering more allies, suggest going to Vera or Maritha with what they know, or refuse involvement, fearing the risks are too great. Raiskin holds up a hand, his voice soft but steady. We should be careful. This is bigger than either of us. If the circle really has eyes everywhere, we'll need help. There are others we might trust, Vera, maybe Eldrin. We can't just go blundering into the tunnels alone. Syrah meets his gaze, weighing his words. After a moment, she nods, though a flicker of impatience crosses her face. I don't like waiting, but you're right. If you trust Vera, bring her in. Eldrin, he seems quiet, but maybe that's what we need. She hands Raiskin the marked map, her finger tapping a crypt note beside a tunnel, midnight, new moon. We'll need to watch for any signs the circle moves soon. If you hear anything, see anyone acting strange, let me know. I'll keep digging in the archives for anything else about the alchemy tunnels or their rituals. Sarah's eyes linger on Raiskin's, searching for assurance that he's truly with her. Their secret meeting ends as footsteps echo down the aisle. Sarah melts away into the stacks, leaving Raiskin holding the map. Now he must decide whether to seek out Vera for a clandestine conversation, quietly approach Eldrin to test his trust, keep surveillance on the tunnels himself, or delay and focus on his studies until more evidence appears. Raiskin finds Eldrin hunched over a thick volume on defensive sigils, his brow furrowed in concentration. After a moment's hesitation, Raiskin slides into the seat beside him. Eldrin, he says quietly, can I trust you with something important, something dangerous? Eldrin's silver eyes widen, but he nods, glancing around to ensure no one is listening. I'll try. I'm not sure what good I'd be, but... Yes. What is it? His voice is earnest, and Raiskin senses both fear and loyalty in him. Raiskin lowers his voice further, sharing the bare details, the forbidden runes, the spiral of thorns, the rumor of the circle, and the map Sarah entrusted to him. We need people who understand wards and can keep secrets. You fit both. But this could be dangerous. If you'd rather stay out of it, I understand. Eldrin hesitates, then clasps the book shut. If you're in trouble, I'll help. I know what it's like to be ignored when something's wrong. If you need me, I'm with you. The pact made, Raiskin must now decide whether to bring Eldrin to meet Sarah, approach Vera together, start watching the tunnels as a pair, or take time to prepare and gather supplies for what lies ahead. With Eldran at his side, Raiskin weaves through the corridors of the academy, heart pounding as they ascend to the East Library Tower. The spiral staircase is lined with arcane lanterns and ancient portraits. At the top, Vera is seated by a window, stacks of scrolls and student papers at her elbow. She looks up, her sharp gaze settling on both boys. "Oh, you look like you're about to confess to a crime," she remarks dryly, setting aside her quill. Raiskin draws a steadying breath and quietly lays out everything. The forbidden runes, the spiral of thorns, Sarah's warning, and the map of the alchemy tunnels. Eldrin corroborates what he witnessed, his voice trembling but firm. For a moment, Vera is silent, then she leans forward, her expression grave. "You did right to come to me. The Thorn Circle is more dangerous than you know, and if faculty are covering for them, we're on our own. We'll need proof, irrefutable evidence. The tunnels are watched, and the Circle has informants. If we move, we must be clever." She glances at the map, studying the arcane notations. "I'll help, but we need a plan." Avera offers options. She can try to distract or mislead suspicious instructors, while Raiskin and Eldrin scout the tunnels. Provide them with protective charms and a sending stone for emergencies, or enlist a trusted upperclassman like Tamsin for backup. A Raiskin must choose how to proceed. Vera rises from her seat and unlocks a small, rune-etched chest beside her desk. With practiced hands, she draws out 2 amulets, each set with a sliver of blue crystal, and a polished stone engraved with a sending rune. She presses one amulet into Raiskin's palm, the other to Eldrin's. "These will shield you from minor divinations and mind scrying. The sending stone will let you contact me instantly. Once. After that, destroy it. If anything goes wrong, use it." She lays out hurried instructions, her tone hushed but intense. "Don't try to take on the Circle yourselves. Gather evidence. Watch for patterns in who enters the tunnels, but do not confront them unless you have no choice. If you see the spiral mark, leave immediately. Trust no one who approaches you alone." Eldrin fingers the amulet nervously, but his eyes are resolute. Vera's confidence is both reassuring and sobering. I'll try to keep faculty eyes off you," she adds, gathering her scrolls. "If you run into Tamsin, tell him I sent you. He's trustworthy. And Raiskin, you'll need to decide when to share this with Sarah. Too many separate secrets will get us all killed." As Vera departs, Raiskin and Eldrin are left with the protective charms, the sending stone, and the weight of their next moving start surveillance tonight. Try to contact Tamsin, meet Sarah to coordinate, or spend another day observing before risking action. Raiskin and Eldrin find Sarah in a shadowed corner of the library, poring over a battered book of Academy lore. As they approach, Sarah glances up, her relief clear when she sees their determined expressions, and the amulets around their necks. Raiskin quickly explains Vera's involvement. displaying the sending stone and sharing the mentor's warnings and advice. Sierra listens intently, her eyes flicking between the boys and the map. Vera's protection is better than anything I could have hoped for, she admits quietly. But it means the circle is even more dangerous than I guessed. The three of us together stand a real chance. If we're careful. They spread the map between them, tracing the route to the alchemy tunnels and marking the safest entry points. Stranger Sarah outlines what she's learned from the archives. The circle meets only under the new moon, and a password, likely a phrase from an old academy poem, may be needed to enter the inner sanctum. Together, they devise signals, fallback points, and a plan to observe the tunnels during the next midnight, when the new moon will shroud the grounds in darkness. As the library bell tolls, Sierra squeezes Rayskin's hand. We're in this together. If any of us gets spooked or caught, we use the sending stone. Agreed. With the pact made, Rayskin must decide whether to suggest a dry run tonight, spend the day gathering more intelligence, visit Tamsin for backup, or split up to observe different approaches to the tunnels. That evening, long after curfew, Rayskin, Sarah, and Eldrin slip from the dormitory under cover of darkness. The amulets Vera gave them tingle faintly against their skin, and each footstep in the silent corridors feels perilous. The gardens are thick with mist, the moon a thin crescent hidden behind clouds. They keep to the shadows, communicating only with subtle gestures. At the entrance to the old alchemy tunnels, a mossy archway half hidden by tangled ivy. They pause, listening. Sierra produces a slip of parchment and quietly recites the old academy poem she suspects is the password. Nothing happens, but Eldrin points out faint runes on the lintel. The group notes every detail, marking escape routes and counting the pattern of magical wards that shimmer when touched by moonlight. They circle the grounds, observing two other hidden entrances and the faint scent of incense drifting from a vent. At one doorway, a pair of cloaked figures pass by, speaking in low, urgent voices. The trio ducks behind a statue, holding their breath until the danger passes. When the grounds are clear, they regroup, adrenaline high but unharmed. Back in the safety of Rayskin's dorm room, the group compares notes and maps changes in the wards. They must now decide whether to attempt infiltration on the night of the new moon, continue surveillance, or take their evidence to Vera or Tamsin for a larger intervention. For the next 3 nights, Raiskin, Sarah, and Eldrin take turns keeping watch on the alchemy tunnels, braving mist and moonless darkness. They record every movement, a trio of older students slipping in just before midnight, a robbed instructor who lingers too long by a concealed entrance, and the odd pattern of magical lights that flicker on and off around the vents. Sarah deciphers fragments of overheard conversation. The passage is safe, and the gate must not be disturbed until the sign is given. And Eldrin sketches out a timetable of the circle's comings and goings. Each night, the tension grows. Raiskin notices a faint sigil, spiral of thorns, doodled into the dirt beside one tunnel, and twice he feels the prickle of scrying magic brushing against Vera's amulet. Sarah grows more restless, convinced the circle is preparing for a ritual on the new moon. Eldrin, though anxious, proves invaluable. He detects a new ward set over the main entrance, one that can only be bypassed with a specific counter rune. On the fourth night, the trio witnesses a hooded figure, taller than the others, their voice commanding, addressing the group at the tunnel mouth. They catch only 2 words, Shadowfell and Recension. The circle's plans are accelerating, and the new moon is only a day away. Back in Raiskin's room, the team debates act now, risk infiltration or call for help. Raiskin must deciding attempt to infiltrate the circle's gathering on the new moon, confront the suspicious instructor they saw, use the sending stone to summon Vera for a raid, or gather evidence for the headmaster despite Vera's warnings. Raiskin pulls the sending stone from his pocket, feeling the weight of the moment. He closes his eyes and channels a silent call to Varag. Circle ritual imminent. New moon, alchemy tunnels, need you. Please come. The stone flares once, then crumbles to dust in his palm. The trio waits, hearts pounding, as the minutes stretch into an eternity. At last Vera arrives in their dorm room, her face grim and determined. She wastes no time. We need backup. Tamsin is waiting outside. I'll create a distraction for the faculty and send a warning to the headmaster, but we must catch the circle in the act. You 3 are my eyes and ears below. Use the charms, stay hidden, and signal if you're in danger. Armored by Vera's faith and Tamsin's presence, the group moves out as midnight approaches. Sarah leads them to the main entrance, where Vera and Tamsin take up positions to intercept any fleeing cultists. Raiskin, Eldrin, and Sarah slip into the tunnels, the wards flickering as their amulets shield them from detection. The echo of distant chanting draws them deeper into darkness, toward the ritual chamber. As the passage narrows, a shadow looms ahead, one of the circle's sentinels. Raiskin must deciding try to sneak past unseen, attempt to subdue the guard with magic, create a distraction to split the cultist's attention, or retreat and alert Vera to the danger. Rayskin signals to Sarah and Eldrin, then plucks a pebble from the tunnel floor and channels a minor illusion cantrip into it. A faint, flickering light like a will-o-wisp. He tosses the pebble down a side corridor where it bounces and glows, casting erratic shadows. The sentinel stiffens, wand at the ready, and moves to investigate the ghostly light, muttering a low warning. Seizing the moment, the trio slips past the now vacant watch post, pressing deeper into the winding tunnels. The walls are slick with condensation, and the air hums with arcane energy. From ahead the chanting grows louder, strange syllables echo off the stone, accompanied by the metallic clatter of ritual implements. Syrah leads the way, eyes darting between the map and the shifting shadows. At the next junction, they spot the ritual chamber, a cavernous room where hooded cultists encircle a smoky portal, violet runes pulsing on the ground. The hooded leader, face hidden, spiral sigil gleaming on their glove, raises a staff and intones, "Let the gate to the Shadowfell open, and our ascension begin!" The trio must decide how to disrupt the ritual with their magic, attempt to record evidence, try to grab the leader's staff, or retreat and summon Vera and Tamsin for a direct assault. Rayskin, heart pounding, raises his hand and murmurs the incantation for a disruptive pulse, one he learned in defense class but never dared use in earnest. Arcane energy tingles down his arm and flashes toward the ritual circle, slamming into the pulsing runes. The violet light flickers wildly, and the cultists stagger as the resonance ripples through the chamber. Sarah and Eldrin, ready, add their own spell, so Syrah conjures a blinding spray of sparks, while Eldrin unleashes a ward-shattering note that cracks the air like thunder. The portal stutters, its smoky surface distorting, and the leader shouts in fury, "Intruders! Hold the focus!" Several circle members break from the ritual, wands drawn, searching the shadows. The wards around the ritual chamber pulse dangerously, threatening to collapse or explode with magical backlash. Syrah hisses, "We need to break the leader's staff or they'll recover." Eldrin, pale but determined, readies another spell. The circle's attention is split, some trying to restore the portal, others advancing on the trio's hiding place. The ground trembles as unstable magic whips the air, and the portal's edges tear at the fabric of the tunnel. Rayskin must act, try to seize the leader's staff during the chaos, target the portal with a risky spell, help Eldrin and Sarah hold off the cultists, or flee to summon Vera and Tamsin for a desperate final assault. Raiskin, Sira, and Eldrin press themselves into the archway, launching defensive spells as the cultists surge toward them. Eldrin's ward snaps into place, deflecting a barrage of crackling bolts, while Raiskin weaves an arcane shield that shimmers with blue light. Sarah darts to the side, sending a flaring bolt of light that blinds two cultists and forces them to stumble back. The leader roars in frustration, trying to marshal his followers, but the portal's instability sends sparks skittering across the chamber. Raiskin holds his ground, parrying a cultist's curse and retaliating with a focused blast of force. Eldrin, voice trembling but resolute, intones a binding rune that traps another attacker in spectral chains. Sarah, sweat beading on her brow, shouts, "Vera and Tamsin are coming. Hold them off!" Suddenly, the circle's leader raises their staff, channeling a surge of shadow magic toward the trio. A wave of cold and fear floods the passage, threatening to shatter their defenses. But just as the shield begins to falter, Vira and Tamsin burst into the room, magical blades and spells blazing. The tide shifts, but the portal's edge shudders, threatening to burst open fully. Now, with reinforcements in the chamber and the portal close to breaking, Raiskin must choose whether to help Vera confront the leader, focus on closing the portal, protect Sarah and Eldrin as they fight, or try to snatch the staff while the leader is distracted. Raiskin surges forward through the fractured wards, joining Vera as she closes in on the circle's leader. The air crackles with hostile magic. Avera's blade glimmers with arcane light as she parries a shadowy lash from the cultist's staff. "Break their concentration!" she shouts, deflecting a bolt of necrotic energy that sizzles past Raiskin's ear. Drawing on every lesson he's learned, Raiskin conjures a wave of force to batter the leader's defenses. The staff's spiral sigil pulses, absorbing some of the impact, but for a heartbeat the leader falters. Vira presses the attack, unleashing a binding hex that wraps spectral chains around the cultist's arms. The leader snarls, darkness boiling around their form, and counters with a pulse that shatters part of the chamber wall. The unstable portal howls, its edge distorting as shadow energy leaks into the room. Raiskin senses the leader's grip on the ritual wavering. The cultists waver as well, caught between fear and fanaticism. Vera nods at Raiskin. "Eyes fiercey! Now! We end this together!" Raiskin can attempt to seize the staff, combine magical force with Vera to subdue the leader, try to dispel the spiral sigil's power, or use his charm to disrupt the leader's concentration with a risky bluff. Raiskin steadies himself and locks eyes with the circle's leader, projecting as much confidence and contempt as he can muster. "You're not strong enough to hold the gate," he calls, his voice echoing through the fractured chamber. "Even now, your own followers falter. The Black Staff will remember this night as your utter failure." The leader's concentration wavers, and the shadowy energy swirling around their staff flickers. For an instant, the spiral sigil dims. Vera seizes the opening, unleashing a binding spell that lashes the leader's arms with ethereal chains. Tamsin, surging forward, knocks two cultists aside with a blast of force. Scattering the ritual circle, the leader snarls and tries to wrench free, but Raiskin's bluff has cracked their composure. The portal's instability escalates, roaring with a hungry wind. Eldrin and Sarah turn their focus to containing the magical backlash, weaving counter wards around the edges. Vera shouts, "Now, Raiskin, the staff!" The leader, desperate, points the artifact at Raiskin, shadow magic ready to strike. Raiskin must choosing dive for the staff, while the leader is bound, unleash a final spell at the portal, double down on his bluff to force surrender, or coordinate a simultaneous attack with Vera and Tamsin to With the leader's arms bound and their concentration rattled, Raiskin lunges through a curtain of shadow, reaching for the spiraling staff. The cultist snarls, hurling a bolt of dark energy, but Vera intercepts the spell with a ward of blue fire. Raiskin's fingers close around the staff, just as the leader tries to wrench it away, a surge of pain and cold shooting up his arm. The staff pulses, a living conduit of shadow, and Raiskin feels a presence brush his mind, something ancient, angry, and hungry. He grits his teeth, willing his own magic to the surface, and twists the staff free with a desperate surge. The spiral sigil sputters, then cracks down the center, releasing a burst of shadow that knocks both Raiskin and the leader to the ground. The ritual circle shatters. The portal shrieks as its unstable edge collapses inward, devouring the cultists chanting and scattering the remaining followers. Sarah and Eldrin redouble their counter wards, containing the worst of the backlash, while Tamsin and Viera keep the fleeing cultists from regrouping. The leader, dazed and staffless, scrambles toward the fractured portal, their form flickering with half-formed shadow. Raiskin, still clutching the broken staff, must seize the chance to question the leader, destroy the staff completely, help Sarah and Eldrin close the portal, or pursue the leader before they can escape. Raiskin staggers upright, still gripping the fractured staff as the portal's shriek intensifies. Eldrin and Sarah are already chanting, weaving counter wards in a desperate web around the portal's swirling maw. Raiskin joins them, channeling his own power through the ruined staff. Focused stranger focusing on the runes that once held the circle's ritual together. The backlash is immediate. Shadow energy lashes at his mind, filling his vision with hungry darkness. But with Eldrin's voice steadying the spell and Sarah's quick hands tracing the right sigils, Raiskin directs the broken staff's magic into the heart of the portal. The spiraling sigil flares, then shatters, sending a wave of force that cracks the chamber floor and sucks the remaining shadow back into the rift. The portal convulses, then collapses in on itself with a thunderous roar. The room falls silent, save for the ragged breathing of the defenders and the faint whimpers of defeated cultists. The leader, now fully shadow-touched, glares at Raiskin with a look of both hatred and despair as Vera and Tamsin close in for the arrest. As Raiskin's vision clears, he sees Sarah and Eldrin slumped but alive, and Vira standing triumphant over the subdued cult leader. Yet, the air still feels charged, and the fractured staff hums ominously in Raiskin's grasp. He must hand the staff over to Vira immediately. Question the leader in front of everyone, attempt to destroy the staff now, or examine it privately before anyone else can interfere. A still breathless and shaking with residual shadow, Raiskin turns to Vera and presses the fractured staff into her hands. "Keep it safe," he whispers urgently. "It's not just a focus. There's something inside." Vera nods, her expression grave, and immediately wraps the staff in shimmering wards, sealing in a conjured sheath of blue fire and sigils. The circle's leader, now fully subdued by Tamsin, spits curses in a guttural tongue, but the cultists have lost their will to fight. Sarah and Eldrin slump beside Raiskin, exhaustion and relief mingling with the fear that something unresolved still lingers in the air. The portal is closed, but a residue of shadow clings to the stones, and a faint chill persists in the chamber. Vera signals to Tamsin to begin securing the remaining cultists. "We'll deliver the staff and the leader to the headmaster. This is evidence and warning. Enough. Raiskin, you did well, but I want you and your friends to stay close. The circle won't forget this night." As the group prepares to leave the ruined chamber, Raiskin faces a new choicing insist on helping question the leader. Demand to witness the staff's containment. Urge Vera to destroy it now, or ask for a private word with Vera about the presence he felt inside the staff.